Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to talk about Challengers for a few minutes, even though the film came out about a week ago and it's been around a week since I saw it. So this is going to be a bit of a brief review, but I did want to talk about it. This is the latest film from director Luca Guadagnino. I hope I'm saying his name correctly, but he has made films such as Call Me By Your Name, the Suspiria remake, which might be my favorite of his, and Bones and All. I think this might be like the 10th case of a movie coming out this year so far in which I feel it was a bit mismarketed. Not completely mismarketed, but the trailers definitely painted this out to be a very tennis-centric sports film, and it does have a lot of tennis in it. There's actually a lot of actual tennis playing that happens on screen. But this is actually more so an odyssey about relationships, deceit, manipulation, and jealousy between these three characters. Zendaya stars as Tashi Duncan, a very promising young tennis prospect. Meanwhile, these two friends, Patrick and Art, are also tennis players, and they are playing at the US Open when they meet Tashi and both become infatuated with her. And when they're pitted against each other in a match, she promises to give her phone number to whichever one wins that match. And from there, this friendship crumbles. There's a lot of manipulation, twists and turns. My favorite thing about this film is probably the fact that it uses tennis as a metaphor for what the characters are going through. In fact, Zendaya's character states very clearly early on in the film, tennis is like a relationship. It is two people squaring off toe-to-toe, sometimes for hours. And I think it's safe to say that there is not a more intimate sport out there. The acting in this generally is very strong. Josh O'Connor, Mike Faist, and Zendaya are all fantastic. I do wish we got a little bit more of Zendaya's character. The film does a lot of time jumping. In fact, it starts out when these characters are teenagers, and it actually covers a couple decades of their lives. And there's something really cool about when a film goes back in time and reveals something that changes your perspective on something that's happening in the present. It's really cool, and when they pull this off in Challengers, it worked for me. With that said, I think they do play with time a little bit too much, to the point where very late on in the film, there are flashbacks to just like a couple days before the events that we're watching, and it just feels like the timeline gets a little messier than it needed to be, and they could have just cleaned the timeline up and told things in a more chronological order. I guess that might be my way of saying that I think this film is quite overrated and overpraised. It's good, I like it, and I'll probably get some flack for saying that it's not my favorite film of the year or second favorite behind Dune Part 2, but I still did very much enjoy it. It's a 2 hour and 15-minute movie, and they spend a lot of time jumping around and things get a bit convoluted. The relationships between these three characters are complex, and I think at times it just becomes a little muddled, but the cast makes it work. The dialogue is pretty strong, generally speaking, and the tennis sequences are very tense. There's one point where Guadagnino actually puts you in the perspective of the tennis ball as it's getting bumped back and forth across the court. Very inventive filmmaking. The soundtrack is good, if repetitive, but I like the EDM style that it goes for. The ending is really interesting. I'm tempted to say it's brilliant, but also it leaves so much unanswered that I was almost kind of frustrated, while equally respecting that they went for that. Love triangle stories can often feel contrived and redundant, but this kept me invested through and through, even if it had its slower patches. The sexual tension is definitely there. It keeps you guessing as to what's going to happen next. What is Tashi going to do? How are these two guys going to react? And what levels of backstabbery have they not reached yet? Overall, it's just a very solid thriller with a lot of twists and turns. I wouldn't say that I necessarily liked it more than Bones and All or Call Me By Your Name. I think all three films are solid, and this is just another one to add to the list of reasons why I will be there to see what this director does next. So I'm going to give Challengers 3.5 out of 5 stars. There's already a lot of conversation about this. Again, I wanted to keep it short and brief, but those are my 2 cents on the film. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you thought of Challengers, and as always, hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'll see you guys in the next one.